Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyidil Mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd, dear respected elders, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Last lesson, for those that weren't here, we had completed all the makharij and the sifat. And we were introduced to the rules of noon shadda and mim shadda, which you'll find on the first side of the sheet. And we also looked at the 3 rules of mim sakin. Now who can remember, in terms of noon shadda and mim shadda, first of all, when a letter has a shadda, how many letters are we reading? 2, exactly. So for example, when you say the word rabba, we're reading 2 bars because that bar has a shadda. But when noon and mim have a shadda, not only do we read it twice, but what's the extra thing we do?
Nasal sound.
The nasal sound, yes, which is known as what in Arabic? Ghunna. So for example, we won't just read it double, we won't just say inna, we'll say inna. We won't just say thumma, we'll say thumma. So that reading it a bit longer, reading it from the nose with the nasal sound, that is known as ghunna. And this applies on only noon shadda and mim shadda. And then we looked at the 3 rules of mim sakin. Now mim sakin has 3 rules. We looked at them in detail last lesson. I'm just going to do a quick recap. The first rule was idgham. Okay? The first rule was idgham. Who can remember quickly what was idgham? When after mim sakin comes what? Another mim. Okay? If after mim sakin there comes another mim, then we are going to assimilate both the memes together. We're going to read them together and we're going to read them with shadda. We're going to read it with shadda, but evidently we're going to read it with the nasal sound. Okay, we're going to read it with the nasal sound. So let me just bring the sheet in front of me so I can just see one of the examples really quickly as well. So for example, when you look at one of them, we have the word lahum. If you look at the middle one, lahum, we have the mim sakin at the end, and then we have Musa, which begins with a mim. So here we won't just read it lahum Musa, we'll say lahum Musa. We're reading it with ghunna. Do you understand? We're reading the first mim, the mim sakin, we're going to read it with ghunna. Lahum Musa. Okay? Do you understand? One thing that I'd like to point out as well, we want to be very careful when we're reading the word Musa, because sometimes even I do it myself. I end up reading the word Musa like Musa. Can you hear what's wrong with this? Musa. Does anyone know what the mistake is in this word? Now the wow I'm stretching, which is right, but the wow, where is it coming from? Is it coming from my mouth or is it coming from my nose? Musa. It's coming from my nose. We don't want to do this. We need to make sure the wow comes from the mouth. Musa. Can you see the difference? Yeah. One is Musa. I do that as well sometimes myself. So I need to be very careful. We all need to be careful when we're reading the Quran. I don't want to be saying Musa. It's Musa. Can you hear the difference? Now one is I'm reading the wow from my nose, which is wrong. I want to make sure the wow is coming from my mouth. Okay, so lahum Musa. Do you understand? So that was the example of idgham mim sakin. Then the second one was ikhfa mim sakin. Ikhfa mim sakin. So after mim sakin there comes what letter? Ba. Okay, after mim sakin there comes a ba. Then we're going to read the mim sakin with ghunna. Okay, so the second example, alayhim, and then we have barakat. Alayhim ends in mim sakin. Barakat begins with ba. So we have a ba after mim sakin. We're going to read the mim with ghunna. Alayhim barakat. Have you understood that? I want everyone to read after me. So alayhim barakat. Do a bit more ghunna on the mim, uncle. Alayhim barakat. Excellent. One thing I like to point out, uncle, is the kaf. You want to read it with a smile. So not barakat, barakat. Okay, barakat. You understand? It all goes back to the first lessons, you know, the smiley letters and the heavy letters. Okay, so again, but here we're concentrating on the meme sakins. But remember, everything that we've learned before, we need to put that into practice as well. So one more time after me. Alayhim barakat. Exactly. And the last rule, idhar for meme sakin. After meme sakin comes what letter? Any other letter. Except meme and ba. Because remember, if meme comes, then what rule is it? Idgham. And if ba comes, what rule is it? And if anything else comes, what rule is it? Idhar. That's how we need to understand it. If meme comes after meme, idgham. If ba comes after meme, ikhfa. If anything else comes after meme, idhar. And what we need to remember, in idgham, we read it with gunna. Yeah, we read it with gunna. We read both the memes together. In ikhfa, we read the meme with gunna. Think of it like this. In idgham, you read both memes with gunna. Because in idgham, you have two memes, don't you? You have the meme sakin, then you have the meme in the next word. So in idgham, you read both memes with gunna. In ikhfa, you read the one meme with gunna. And idhar, you read no meme with gunna. If you imagine it like a pattern like that, idgham, both memes gunna. Ikhfa, the first meme, because there's only going to be one meme. Ikhfa, first meme gunna, and idhar, no meme gunna. So in the example we have arakum. And if you look at the last example, or let's look at the second example, hum yuqinun. Okay, we have hum. Uncle Khubayb, what letter does that hum end with? Meme sakin, isn't it? Hum, it ends in meme sakin. Meme sakin. So yeah, we're gonna without gunna. Exactly, because the next letter is what? Ya. Can you see say ya in the next letter? Hum yuqinun. Hum yuqinun. No gunna whatsoever, okay? Hum yuqinun. One thing I want to point out, because I've learned this recently as well, that if you remember shiddat, rikhwat and tawassut. Okay, shiddat, rikhwat and tawassut. Shiddat was when the sound stops immediately. Okay, and the letters were, I'll just say it quickly, ajidu qattin bakat. Tawassut, rikhwat was when the sound of the letter continues to flow. Okay, and tawassut was when the sound is between shiddat and rikhwat. Okay, which were the letters of Lin Umar. And you'll understand from this example. You know, when I read this, the first ayah of Surah Al-Fatiha, okay, listen very carefully. I'm going to read, first of all, noon. You know the letter noon? Noon is a letter of what? Is it shiddat, rikhwat or tawassut? Shiddat is ajidu qattin bakat. It's not there. Tawassut is Lin Umar. Lin Umar. So is noon in this word? Lin Umar. Noon is in this word, isn't it? So Lin Umar. Noon is a letter of tawassut. Tawassut, which is between shiddat and rikhwat. So what we need to understand, just if you're not following, just you'll understand the example. Okay. So tawassut, what happens is the sound of the letter, continues a bit. So you'll understand from this example. Okay. When I read the Surah Al-Fatiha, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Okay. Alameen. Listen very carefully. Alameen. The noon at the end, have I stopped the sound straight away, or am I letting the sound continue? But in the way I'm reading it, I'm stopping it straight away. Alameen. That's wrong. It should be Alameen. Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Can you see how the sound continues? This is what the quality of tawassut is. And quality of shiddat is when the sound gets cut off straight away. So for example, let's take the example of fi jidiha habalum min masad. Masad, dal, finished. No, the sound's not continuing. So I just wanted to mention that as well in regards to shiddat, rikhwat and tawassut. But back to what we were doing here. So in this example, hum yuqinun. Do you understand? The noon sakin, the sound is continuing. So we don't want to say hum yuqinun. Hum yuqinun. You understand? So I want everyone to try this one after me. Hum yuqinun. Do you understand? So these were, alhamdulillah, the 3 rules of mim sakin. Idgham, ikhfa, and idhar. Now in lesson 9, it's going to be, there's a bit more to this, okay? So I want everyone to be paying attention, inshallah. Here we're not looking at the rules of mim sakin. We're going to now look at the rules of noon sakin and tanween, okay? So the rules of noon sakin and tanween. Now who can tell me, in mim sakin, we had mim sakin on its own, isn't it? We just had the rules of mim sakin. Why is it here we have noon sakin and tanween? Why has tanween come with noon sakin? Can anyone tell me why?
The voice of tanween is also the voice of
Exactly. The voice or the sound. The sound of tanween is exactly the same of the sound of noon. Yeah? For example, mim sakin, is there anything else which is the same sound of mim? Is there anything else which is the same sound of mim sakin? Mim sakin makes the sound. Yeah, the sound. So is there anything else the same as that? No. But the noon sakin which makes the sound, the n sound, is there anything which is the same as that in Arabic? There is. An, in, un. Double fatha, which is tanween. Do fatha, do zabar, whether you call it do zabar or 2 fatha or fathatain. Fathatain is the Arabic way of saying 2 fathas. Okay, whatever you call it, tanween makes the same sound as noon sakin. You need to understand this. Okay, tanween, it makes the same sound as noon sakin, and you'll understand by looking at the board. So what is tanween? Tanween, we have 3 examples. We have 3 tanweens, okay? Tanween either refers to 2 fathas, or if you in the Urdu you say 2 zabar, okay? And in Arabic it's known as fathatain. And why has it come with noon sakin? Because how are 2 fathas pronounced? If you were to spell out 2 fathas, how will you spell it out? Can you see right at the end? You spell it out as an. Can you see? You spell it out as an. And when you spell it out, what's the last letter? When you spell it out, what's the last letter? Noon. Do you understand? That's why tanween comes with noon sakin in these rules. Because tanween makes the same sound. Okay? So fathatain, 2 fathas, will be pronounced as an. 2 dhammas, which is also 2 pesh. Okay? Dhammatain will be pronounced as un. So what's the last letter again? Noon. And 2 kasras or 2 zair, kasratain, will be pronounced as in. So what's the last letter? Noon. So have you understood why it's tanween here? Because tanween makes exactly the same sound as noon sakin. Not just noon sakin. Because in all 3 cases, what is the noon? Is it noon fatha, noon dhamma, noon kasra, is it noon sakin? No, in the example, they're all noon sakin. The hamza before is fatha. Okay? But the actual noon is what? The actual noon is sakin. That's why tanween comes with noon sakin in these rules. So I want to make sure everyone's understood this. That why? Because I don't want you to think, why didn't tanween come with mim sakin? We don't say im, do we? We say an, in, un.
If the noon comes at the end of a word, or fatha, kasra, double fatha, double kasra, and
double dhamma
comes at the end, sound is the same.
Yeah, exactly, the sound is the same. So I want everyone to inshallah understand this, yeah? Okay, so that's why tanween has come with noon sakin. Now let's look at the rules of noon sakin and tanween. How many rules did mim sakin have?
3.
Mim sakin had 3, didn't it? Mim sakin had idgham, ikhfa, and idhar. Now noon sakin on the sheets we've got 2, but in total noon sakin and tanween has 4 rules. Then inshallah the next 2 rules we'll do next lesson. But let's see how much we can cover today inshallah. So the first rule I want to point out today is idhar. Okay, if you remember in idhar mim sakin, how did we read the mim? With or without gunna? In idhar mim sakin, how did we read the mim? With or without gunna?
Izhar without gunna.
We read it without gunna, didn't we? In idhar mim sakin, we read the mim without gunna, because idhar, if you look what idhar literally means, zahir karna, to read clearly, to read, apparently. Okay, so in idhar mim sakin, we read the mim sakin without gunna. In idhar noon sakin and tanween, we're going to also read it without gunna. You understand? So in regards to the name, it's giving the same, meaning, the same hukum, the same outcome. That in idhar, noon sakin and tanween, you're going to read the noon or the tanween without gunna. Okay, now let's look, when does idhar, noon sakin and tanween take place? Okay, we saw when idhar mim sakin happens. Idhar mim sakin was very simple. Idhar mim sakin was when any letter except mim and ba. But noon sakin, there's a bit more detail. So if you look, when after noon sakin or tanween, what letters have to come? Any of the huruful halaq. Okay, if any of the huruful halaq come, then he will read the noon sakin and tanween very clearly without gunna. Now I haven't written the huruful halaq on the sheet because we should all remember what the huruful halaq are. Does anyone remember what the huruful halaq is? Who knows what huruful halaq literally means? Letters of the throat. So who can remember how many letters of the throat were there? 6. Can anyone remember them?
Ha.
Okay.
Ha.
So which two come from the bottom? Hamza and ha. Hamza and ha. And then which two come from the middle? Ain. Ain and Ain and ha. Ain and ha. And which two come from the top? Ghain and kha. If you remember, we covered the huruful halaq in the makharij, didn't we? In the makharij, in one of the first lessons, the huruful halaq, and I said as well that time, remember these 6 letters because they are going to come again. And as I said, they've come here again in idhar. That's why it's very important to remember these 6 letters. If you can actually remember these 6 letters, then you don't have to remember the others. In regards to the rules of noon, sakin and tanween, the only ones you need to remember, if you can remember these 6, then the others you don't need to remember. That's why it's very important you remember these 6, okay? So the 6 letters again, that come from the throat, that we learnt in the makharij, Hamza and ha. Everyone say it after me. Hamza ha. Ain ha. Ghain kha. Again. Hamza ha. Ain ha. Ha. Ain ha. Ghain kha. So these are the letters of the throat, the huruful halaq. And when these 6, any of these 6, okay, if they come after a noon sakin or a tanween, okay, if they come after noon sakin or a tanween, then how will we read the noon sakin or the tanween? We're going to read it without gunna. Yes, exactly. We're going to read it without gunna. And on the board I've written the letters, not on your sheets but on the board, as you can see, Hamza, ha. Even though it's called Hamza, how would you pronounce it? Not ha, we pronounce it a, isn't it? Hamza makes the a sound. So if you just make the sounds a, ha, a, ha, gha, kha. So everyone say after me, a. Everyone say after me, okay, one letter at a time. A, ha, a, ha, gha, and kha. Okay, so these 6 letters. So if they come after noon, sakin or tanween, we're going to read it without gunna. Now I haven't got it on your sheets, but on the board now I've got some examples, a lot of examples I want us to go through, because you might not be able to see it on some of the sides, unfortunately. So what I'll do, I'll read the side ones. So I'll read the first one on each line, and then I'll go around asking each person to do the next one. If you actually see as well, I've got 6 lines here, haven't I? So the first line, if you look at the examples, I'm going to go through each example. If you look at the first example, you have the example of Noon Sakin, and then the letter of the throat in 2 separate words. Can you see? The Noon Sakin is in the word before, and the Hamza is in the word after. In the second example, the Noon Sakin and the Hamza are in what? Same word or different words?
Same word.
Same word. And then in the third example, you have double fatha. Okay, second example, you have double kasra. And the last example, you have double dhamma. Okay, now can you get double fatha and the Hamza in the same word, or will it always be in separate words? Who knows the answer to this? You know, for example, here in the first line, in the first example, the Noon and the Hamza are in 2 words. And then the Noon and the Hamza are in 1 word. So can you ever get fatha, double fatha and Hamza in 1 word? No. The reason why, understand this, okay? Tanween, whether it's double fatha, double kasra, double dhamma, will always come at the end of a word. Okay? Tanween, double fatha, double kasra, double dhamma, it will always come at the end of a word. It will never come in the middle of a word, okay? Tanween, it shows you that this is the end of a word, and the next word is a new word. Do you understand? So if you look at the first example, I'll read it. So the word we have here is min. Min, and the second word we have is ahli. So when I read it together, I'm going to read, if uncles you want to come closer to see the word, inshallah, if you want to come closer. So the first word we have min, and the second word we have ahli. So when you read it together, I'm going to read the noon with or without gunna? Without gunna. Why? Because Hamza is the letter of the throat. So I'm going to read it min ahli, min ahli. I'm going to read it one more time. I want everyone to read it after me. Min ahli.
Min ahli.
Yes, exactly. Nice and clearly. Agha sahab, do you want to try the next one? So I'm just going to tell you, I haven't written the harakat, but the ya has a fatha. The ya at the beginning has a zabar. The noon has a sukoon. And then the last part is awna. So how do you think we're going to read this?
Yun awna.
So the ya has a fatha. So yan. So how are you going to read it?
Yan awna.
So read it one more time.
Yan awna.
The way you're reading it, Agha sahab, is you're reading it a bit with gunna. You're saying yan awna. Are we meant to be reading it with gunna or without gunna? Without gunna. Why? Because what's the thing that determines, the thing that tells us is not about shadda, nothing to do with shadda here. What you need to see, Agha sahab, is here, when we see a noon sakin, the thing we need to always ask ourselves, what's the next letter? Do you understand? What is the next letter? So I'm going to ask you now, Agha sahab, what is the next letter? It's a Hamza, isn't it? Hamza. The zabar is on the Hamza. The zabar is on the Hamza. So the next letter is the Hamza. So Hamza is a letter of the what?
Letter of throat.
Letter of the throat, isn't it? Meaning whether it be bottom, middle or top, they're all the letters of the throat. So Hamza is from the letters of the throat. So now we know that this is a letter of the throat. Whenever a letter of the throat comes, are we going to read the noon with or without gunna? Without gunna. So we can't say yan awna, that's wrong. How are we going to say it, Agha sahab?
Yan awna.
Exactly. Again?
Yan awna.
Good. One more time.
Yan awna.
Perfect, mashallah. Yan awna. Nice and clear. The noon, nice and clear. Yan awna. Uncle Khubayb, do you want to try the next one? We have, I'll read the words out separately for you. We have idhan, and then we have abada. So how are we going to read it together? Idhan abada. Exactly. Idhan abada. How did you know to read it without gunna? What told you? After the tanween, what letter do we have? In abada, what's that letter? The first letter. It's a
Letter of throat.
letter of the throat. Which one? Hamza. Do you understand? Here we have Hamza, don't we? The top line are all examples of Hamza. The top line, these are all examples of Hamza. So we have Hamza after idhan. So it's going to be nice and clear. Idhan abada. Janab, do you try the next one? We have bi'adha. Try the next one. Exactly. Bi'adha bin alim. So here we have do kasra, do zer. The next letter is what? Letter of the throat. It's a Hamza. It's a Hamza. So we're going to read it without gunna. Hassan bhai, can you see the next one? Do you try the next one? Exactly. Kitabun. Nice and clear. Kitabun. Because the next letter is what? It's a Hamza. Hamza is a letter of the throat. You understand? Hamza is a letter of the throat. So the do pesh or double dhamma, we're going to read it without gunna. No gunna. Do you understand? Next line of examples we have ha. Okay, I'm going to read the first one. So here we have mimman. Here the meme that has a shadda. How are we going to read this meme? With or without gunna? With gunna. Because remember, meme shadda always gunna. Meme shadda, noon shadda, always gunna. So mimman hadayna. Mimman hadayna. I'm not going to read it like this. Mimman. No, that's wrong. I don't want to read the noon with the gunna. Why? Because what's the next letter? You say ha. Ha. Remember these steps. These steps need to go through your brains, okay? The next letter is a ha. Ha is a letter of the throat. So there's going to be no gunna. So mimman hadayna. Okay, Ilyas, do you try the next one? Nice and small word. Minhum. Nice and small. Minhum. Again. Minhum, okay? Remember when you read the dhamma, make the lips round. Don't say minhum. A lot of people, they'll read it like this, minhum. They won't do the dhamma properly. For dhamma, the lips need to be round. Minhum. Minhum. Okay? Do the next one as well, Ilyas, if you can see. Fariqan. Fariqan hada. Fariqan. Qaf, double fatha. So we have tanween. The next letter is what? Ha. The next letter is ha. Ha is a letter of the throat. So it's going to be without gunna. Aghas, do you try the next one? We have the word qawmin. Lovely, mashallah. Qaw, nice and clear. Well done, alhamdulillah. Qawmin had. No gunna, yes? No gunna. Why? Because what's the next letter after the tanween? What is the next letter? Ha. Ha is the letter of the throat. See, exactly. These are the steps that we need to follow through. If Uncle Khubayb, the first word is imru'un. Imru'un. So the Hamza, there's a Hamza on the waw. Sometimes you get this in the Quran, okay? You'll get a Hamza written on a waw. So when there's a Hamza written on the waw, it's not a waw anymore, it's a Hamza. Okay? So this is actually an example. This example should actually be in the top line. This example should actually be in the top line. So we have imru'un. So what am I saying? No. This is the right example actually, because we have ha in the next word. So how are we going to read it, Uncle Khubayb? Imru'un halaka. Yes, imru'un halaka. We're not going to read imru'un halaka. That's wrong. No gunna. Imru'un halaka. Everyone read it after me, or read it with me actually. Imru'un halaka. One more time. Imru'un halaka. Okay, Janab, then try the next one, and then okay, I'll do the first one actually, because you can't see the full word. So it's min ibadina. Okay, yes, alhamdulillah, you can see it then. Can you see the side as well? Yes. Oh, alhamdulillah, from here I can't see it. So yeah. Okay, so min, say it one more time, Janab.
Min ibadina.
Good, so we have noon sakin. What's the next letter? Ain. Ain is the letter of the throat. So no gunna. Letter of the throat means no gunna. Remember this. Letter of the throat means no gunna. Hassan, don't try the next one. Good. An'amta. As you can see, min ibadina, noon, sakin and ain are in how many words? One or two? Min is one word, ibadina is another word. So the noon, sakin and the ain, are they in the same word or are they in different words? Different words. Isn't it? Different words. And in the example of an'amta, the noon sakin and the ayn, are they in different words or the same word? Same word. So idhar can happen when they're in separate words or when they're in same word. Okay? So an'amta, nice and clear. The noon sakin will be nice and clear. Ilyas, but don't try the next one. We have Qur'anan. And then what's the next word? You want to come closer, Ilyas?
Arabi,
Qur'anan. I'll read this one. Qur'anan Arabiya. Qur'anan Arabiya. The Hamza has do fatha. The next letter is ayn. So it's going to be, ayn is the letter of the throat. So no gunna. Nice and easy. Try the next one, Ilyas, by bikafin abda. Yes. So the tanween, Ilyas, the double kasra, the kasratain, did you read it with or without gunna? Ilyas, how did you read it? With gunna or without gunna? You know, bikafin, the kasratain, did you read it with gunna or did you read it without gunna? With gunna? All these examples are without gunna. Why? Why is it without gunna? Because what's the next letter? After bikafin, what's the next letter, Ilyas? Ayn. Ayn, can you see ayn? Abd, ayn. Yeah, ayn is a letter of the throat. So whenever a letter of the throat comes, Ilyas, no gunna. Do you understand? Keep that in mind. Whenever a letter of the throat comes, no gunna. Agha, do you try the next one? It's arashun. Arashun. Remember, the tongue out. Remember, the makhraj of these letters as well. The tongue needs to be out. So arashun azim. Sorry, arashun azim. Okay, everyone try after me. So arashun azim. I want everyone to say after me. Okay, so arashun azim. Okay, one thing that we need to watch out for, when we say the word azim, we don't want to say azim. What's wrong with saying azim? What have I done to the ayn? Have I made it smiley or have I made it heavy? Heavy. But ayn is a what? Ayn is a smiley letter. So we need to say arashun azim. Start smiling. Azim. Azim. And the dha needs to become strong. So azim. It is quite tricky, but we just need to practice these ones. So arashun azim. So everyone say after me. Good. So remember, arashun. We have dammatain. The next letter is ayn. So with no gunna or with gunna? With no gunna. Do you understand? Let's try and go through these examples a bit more quicker, inshallah. The next line we have ha. Okay. So when I read this one, Janab, you try this one.
min, haysu,
Good. Min hay thu. Good. Mashallah. Hassan, but try the next one. Exactly. Mashallah. Ilyas, can you see the next one? Do you want to try it? Aliman. So aliman. Hakima, aliman, hakima. No gunna. We don't want to say aliman, no. Okay. Aliman, hakima. Okay. The next example, Agha Sab, do you want to try it? Bi al-sinatin. Good. Exactly. Bi al-sinatin hidad. No gunna. Exactly. Can you try the next one, Uncle Khubab? Good. So arba'atun. Try it one more time. Good. Hurum. No gunna. Beautiful. Mashallah. Do you want to try the next one, Janab?
min ghayri,
Good. And try the next one as well.
fasayun ghayzuna,
Remember, dad. So don't say fasayun ghiduna. Buna. Fasayun ghiduna. Your tongue needs to be touching the top teeth at the back. Okay. Not like a dal, but dad. Dad. Can you hear that fatness? Dad. So fasayun ghiduna. Okay. So yes, no gunna, yeah? Hassan, but try the next one. Good. Afuwan ghafura. Whenever you see a alif, stretch the last letter as well. So afuwan ghafura. Ilyas, can you try the next one? So safina. Safinatin ghasba. So safinatin tin. No gunna. Why? Because the next letter is what? Ghain. Ghain is the letter of the throat. Do you understand? Do you try the next one, Agha Sab? Ilahun غيره. No gunna, okay? So ilahun غيره. We don't want to say ilahun غيره. No, that's wrong. Ilahun غيره. The last example we have is kha. So we've done Hamza ha, Ain ha, Ghain, and now we're doing kha. So 6 examples, 6 sets of examples for 6 letters. So the first one, I'm just going to say the first one, you have min khashyati, min khashyati. After the noon sakin, we have a kha. So kha is the letter of the throat. No gunna. Do you understand? Janab, do you try the next one? Oh, Uncle Khoeb, you try it one more time. Al-munkhaniqa. Munkhaniqa. So the main thing, the noon sakin, are you reading it with or without? With gunna or without gunna? The noon sakin, how are you reading it? Are we going to read it with gunna or are we going to read it without gunna? Without gunna, exactly. Janab, don't try the next one. It sounded slightly gunna there. Try one more time. Good. Aliman khabira. Remembering tawassut, okay? So don't say aliman khabir. Aliman khabir. Let the sound, come out a bit. So ali of the noon, of that noon sound. So aliman khabira. Try one more time.
Aliman khabira.
Khabira.
Aliman khabira.
Good, mashallah. Hassan, but try the next one. Khati'ah. You know the thing about Hamza, when we get Hamza after a kasra, in this word khati'ah, if we read it too quickly and we say khati'ah, what does the Hamza sound like? No, not ayn, khati'ah. It sounds like a ya. It sounds like a ya. If you read Hamza too quickly after a kasra, it comes out like a ya, khati'ah. We need to be careful when you say khati'ah, khati'ah. You understand? We need to make that khati'ah sound. Okay, and the last one, Ilyas is going to try it. We have Rahmatun. Say it again. One more time. Rahmat. The main thing you need to do, Ilyas, we are trying to focus on the Tanween. So how are you going to do it? Rahmatun. You want to make the Rahmatun khair. So the kha, remember, right now what we're concentrating on is all of the end sounds, the Tanween or the Noon. We are trying to figure out, are we going to read it with gunna or are we going to read it without gunna? And what tells us this? The letter before, the letter after? The letter after. We need to look at the letter after. It's a kha. Kha is the letter of the throat. So we're going to read this part without gunna. You understand? Okay, so this was the first rule of idhar. Then we've got idgham. We'll just go over the definition of idgham, okay? And then we'll carry this on next lesson because the time is running quite short. So here, the first rule is done idhar. The letters of the throat for idhar, Hamza ha, Ain ha, Ghain kha, okay? And we read it without gunna. Yes, that was idhar. Now the second rule for noon sakin and tanween is known as idgham. We had idgham for mim sakin as well, didn't we? We had idgham for mim sakin, didn't we? Yeah. So we've got idgham for this as well. Okay, we've got idgham for this as well. Now, idgham for this, listen very carefully. Same again, when after a noon sakin or a tanween, in idhar we had the letters of the throat, yes? But in idgham we have different letters. We have different 6 letters, okay? So if after noon sakin or tanween, any of the letters of idgham appear, then what will you do? You know how in idgham mim sakin, we assimilated the mim sakin with the mim, didn't we? We're going to do the same thing here. What we're going to do, we're going to assimilate, we're going to merge the noon sakin, or if it's tanween, the tanween, into the letter of idgham. Okay? Similarly in idgham, you know how we put the 2 memes together, didn't we? In this, we're going to do that as well. We're going to put the noon sakin and tanween into the idgham letter. But for idgham mim sakin, how many letters were there? Just 1, yes? Idgham mim sakin, there was how many letters? 1, which was mim. But in idgham noon sakin and tanween, there's 6. So there's 6 that you need to remember. And there are 2 types of idgham as well. What's more complicated with this? There's 2 types. Okay? There's 2 types. What are the 2 types? What's the difference? The difference is, in idgham mim sakin, After the mim sakin, you'd get a mim. And how would we read it? We'll read it with or without gunna? With gunna. We'll always read it with gunna. But in this idgham, there's two types of idgham. There's the idgham with gunna and there's the idgham without gunna. So it's you need to be this one. You need to be very careful. You need to know this properly as well. And let's just look at the letters of idgham. Janab, like you said, is yarmalun. If you bring all of these letters together, ya, ra, mim, lam, waw, noon, they make one beautiful word, yarmalun. Yar, everyone say after me, yarmalun. Yarmalun. So you have, everyone say each letter after me. You have ya, ra, mim, lam, waw, and noon. Noon. And but very important, remember this one word, yarmalun. Yarmalun. So in the future, if I ever ask you what are the idgham letters, like all of them together, what will you say? You will say yarmalun. Okay, and the two types, inshallah, will go in detail next lesson, inshallah. They're on the sheet, so please do bring these sheets with you next lesson. I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us, and jazakumullah for taking part. Subhanahu wa bihamdik, subhanaka wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.